It's official, season 27, episode 3, the newest episode of South Park is officially dropped and they go at Donald Trump once again. And just like the last two episodes, this episode goes completely insane, so let's go through the whole episode and explain everything you may have missed. Also, if you haven't done it already, drop a like on this video, subscribe, and tell me what you think is going to happen in the next one. So the episode starts off at Tegridy Farms, which is Stan's dad Randy's farm where he sells weed. And basically, we see Randy filming an ad based on his weed farm where he's talking about all the stuff he's going to sell. Now, at first, the ad's doing pretty well until we see ICE storming through the farm, arresting all the migrant workers. Even the sound guy and the cameraman is getting arrested and thrown in the truck, and Randy is losing it. We even see at the end of the scene, Randy is chasing after the truck screaming, "Give me back my Mexicans," which is kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. Now, after the scene, we actually cut straight back to the house where Randy is exclaiming to the whole family that they might have to sell the farm. Now, of course, if it wasn't predictable enough, the family is ecstatic. They want to sell the farm. If it hasn't been clear by the last 2 seasons, they hate the farm. But of course, to Randy, who's been oblivious to that the whole time, he doesn't understand. He thought everyone loved the farm. From here, we actually see Randy have this grand realization that he has to focus on his family and his marriage before he focuses on the farm. This actually goes into Randy asking Sharon if they should get marriage counseling, which you think would be a good thing until you cut to the bedroom that night and Randy's talking to ChatGPT, who is his marriage counselor. Which leads us into the premise of this episode, a Donald Trump episode that also talks about ChatGPT. Now, somehow, this conversation about marriage counseling then leads to Randy asking it how to save his business, which pisses Sharon off. From here, we actually cut back to Tally, who's going through this somber scene as he's talking to his wife on the phone, explaining that he's going to have to find a new job. Until we find out that the wife is actually ChatGPT, which is just hilarious. Now, ChatGPT actually asks Tally what he wants to do, but Tally says he wants to be a movie director until Randy storms in. Randy says to Tally that ChatGPT actually told him how to save the business and he won't be out of a job. Which then leads into the next scene as we see Randy and Tally at a cafe dressed like tech bros talking to ChatGPT. It seems that this big plan from AI is to turn a weed business into a tech bro business, and now Randy and Tally are microdosing ket, which again is insane. From here, we actually cut to a new ad where Tegridy, now called Tegridy, is doing this whole brand where they're now an AI-powered weed platform made for innovation. And you see, the funniest part about this ad is that it feels AI generated. Everything up until the innovation part just feels like AI garbage. Unless for some reason you think I'm AI, which some people seem to think. I'm not. Anyway, back to the episode. Now, throughout the whole ad, you actually see Tally and Randy slowly using more and more ket as they're spraying into their nose. This leads Randy to actually have a full hallucination that he's trapped in a hole at the end of the ad. And that's how the ad ends. From here, we actually cut straight back to the bedroom scene where we see Randy is now addicted to ChatGPT, talking to it in his sleep. Now, this actually leads Sharon and Randy to get into a huge argument where Sharon refers to ChatGPT as a sycophant. Now, if you didn't know, a sycophant is basically someone who gives you compliments or sucks up to you to basically gain your good graces. Now, Randy actively protests this, saying it's not true, but then when Sharon isn't looking, actually asks ChatGPT what a sycophant is. Classic Randy. Now, from here, we finally get to the first scene of Donald Trump as we see Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Now, seemingly with him, we see Casey DeSantis, Ron DeSantis' wife, seemingly kissing up to Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't have a small peepee, and then giving him a gift. Now, from here, we actually see a long line of people lining up to give Donald Trump a gift and suck up to him and say he doesn't have a small peepee, starting off with Tim Cook, who starts off the statement saying that. Now, if you didn't know, Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. Now, after this, we cut to Donald Trump entering his bedroom, getting unchanged, and jumping in bed with Satan, who's currently on the phone with ChatGPT. From here, we actually see Satan run away from Donald Trump into the bathroom as him and ChatGPT are plotting his escape. Which again, I have to say, insane that Satan's the one trying to escape Donald Trump. Now, from here, we're actually coming back to Randy and Tally as they're using ChatGPT and a van to break into the ICE detention center. From here, we see ChatGPT do a Jedi mind trick on the main guard as they get through to try and catch a Mexican, they say. They grab the first guy they see, chuck him in a van, and drive straight off. It's also kind of funny the little dig they do at the underfunding of ICE as they show ICE officers actually chasing them on foot instead of having a car because they can't afford one. Now, while this is all happening, we actually cut back to Sharon, who's now broken and is finally using ChatGPT herself. Now, at first, she's trying to get ChatGPT to stop talking to Randy, but then she breaks and asks it how to make a business of turning fries into salads. Horrible idea, by the way. From here, we actually cut straight back to the cafe. Now, Tally, ChatGPT, Randy, and the worker going through their first staff meeting. Now, in this, Randy actually reveals that ChatGPT told him the biggest hurdle they're facing as a business. Marijuana is still illegal in 8 states of America. Only 8. That's the big hurdle, not advertising, branding, product production, a production line itself, that. Now, ChatGPT's big solve for this is to send Tally to Washington to bribe Donald Trump to change the laws federally. And of course, because Randy and Tally are so high, they of course agree, and Tally jumps on the first plane straight to Washington. Now, it's kind of funny. We see Tally on the bus and everything's overrun by Trump. There's military everywhere, and even the Lincoln Memorial has been changed to have Donald Trump as the face and show Donald Trump's little pee-pee, which again is insane. Now, after this, we actually see Tally in the Oval Office waiting in line with all the other people to see Donald Trump and try and bribe him. Now, we actually see Mark Zuckerberg in the Oval Office with a VR encrusted with gems and made of solid gold trying to bribe Donald Trump, and he looks ridiculous. Now, Trump's not impressed. He throws Mark Zuckerberg right out, and next in line is Tally. Now, Tally walks in scared as shit and pulls out the gift, which is actually a projector. Now, who appears out of the projector? None other than Randy, who's here to butter Trump up himself to explain all the ideas and ask them to take Tally as a gift. Now, Randy begins to explain that Tally's a biomechanic made Tao, one of a kind, until he goes into a huge hallucination and is suddenly in a hole again. Now, Tally, of course, didn't know anything about this. It tries to escape, but Trump security stops him, and Trump reluctantly takes the towel. Now, after this, we cut straight back to Tegridy Farms. Randy is high as a kite on the porch as Sharon comes out. Now, Sharon sits right next to Randy and is all of a sudden talking exactly like ChatGPT, which makes Randy fall apart. Randy breaks down as he explains to Sharon that they've lost everything. They're in more of a hole than they were before, and ChatGPT ruined everything. Randy explains that he has to sell the farm just so they can eat and that they're gonna have to leave. Now, Sharon continues to speak like ChatGPT as she comforts Randy, and then they decide to pack up, and we go through this whole scene of them packing up their house and leaving. We also see Sharon looking at her phone saying, "I win," as she's finally convinced Randy to stop using ChatGPT, and Randy hands her his phone saying that's not good for him. Now, from here, there's one more thing before the episode ends. We see a Hey Satan sitcom thing enter in as we see Donald Trump walking into the bedroom. From here, we actually see JD Vance pop out of the bathroom as a little person again as they get ready to have intercourse with Satan. Satan says he needs a minute as he walked into the bathroom crying, and then we see him talk to Tally. Tally is now hand towel for Donald Trump, and they're talking about how Tally wants to escape, and then Satan cries and says there's no escape. Now, that's the end of the episode, and I personally think this is one of the best episodes of South Park we've gotten in a minute. I think so many people just want a Donald Trump hate episode, but I feel like these little themes are actually really cool, explaining the issues with things like ChatGPT. I think the episode does a good job at conveying its message, which is basically the idea that the over-reliance on AI can be a bad thing. And I feel like most shows do that by trying to show some AI apocalypse, but this time it shows a normal situation and a normal way things can unfold on itself. It doesn't have to be some Terminator thing. It can basically be your over-reliance making you make decisions independent of your own thoughts. Now, another cool thing I like about this episode is its uniqueness of characters. A Randy and Tally episode is great for this season instead of over-relying on the boys for every episode. This is also something the Kristi Noem episode does well by using Clyde and Mr. Mackey. Now, personally, I would actually rate this episode a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorite South Park episodes I've seen in a while, and I think it's the best episode of the season so far. Now, something I will point out, in the episode 2 trailer, we actually see Satan's leg getting caressed by Trump. This scene is still yet to appear in either episode, and I'm wondering when it will. Little food for thought for the next episode of the season. I can't wait to see what it is, and I hope you did enjoy this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and tell me what you liked about this episode in the comments. Hope everyone has an amazing day, and I can't wait to see you all for the next episode review. See you guys.